Hello, my name is Whitney Barnett. I'm 18 years old and I was born with half a heart. Yes, really, I was born with a medical condition called congenital heart disease, or CHD. And today I want to talk about how this condition actually really positively affected my life. So CHD affects 1 in 100 infants, and it presents itself as a range of different heart defects ranging from child to child. So my specific heart defect is called tricuspid atresia, which means that instead of having a tricuspid valve, I have just a wall of tissue between my right atrium and my right ventricle. As you could assume, this presented further anatomical defects, and I was actually additionally born with pulmonary stenosis, hypoplastic right heart syndrome, an atrial septal defect, and a ventricular septal defect. What all of this means basically is that my heart was severely underdeveloped, had a few holes, and yes, I was a blue baby. I had 3 open heart surgeries before the time I turned 3 to restructure my blood flow to accommodate my heart, and I have now what's called a single ventricle heart. So now that we're done with this boring anatomy lesson, I want to talk about my personal experience with CHD, but also teach you about some of the lessons I learned along the way. So summer camp has always been a huge part of my life. From ages 7 to 17, I spent practically my entire summers at camps. But my favorite and the most significant is a little bit different than the rest. Camp Taylor is an overnight summer camp for kids specifically for congenital heart defects. To a 7-year-old who's never met anyone who's like her before in the world, this is pretty much the most exciting thing ever, and it still is to me today. Camp Taylor draws in campers from all across California and even from different states. I attended for 10 years until I aged out just this past year, and it's staffed with the most amazing counselors, teen mentors, cardiac nurses, and doctors. I now serve as a mentor, which means I not only get to represent this amazing organization and spread awareness about CHD, but I also get to work with these spectacular kids who attend the camp. So I'm not just telling you about this because I want to brag about how awesome my summer camp is, because trust me, I want to do that. But I'm telling you about this because Camp Taylor played such a pivotal role in my childhood as someone growing up with CHD, and it's going to be the center of a lot of my stories today. So at Camp Taylor, one of the things they teach us about is the importance of self-advocacy, which is what I want to focus on. It took me years to even begin to grasp what it means to be an advocate for yourself. And it's because I didn't really care and I didn't put the effort in until recently. Quite honestly, if we go back 18 months, I would not be standing here talking to you today, not because I didn't have the courage, but because I didn't have the self-respect. To me, self-advocacy means loving and respecting yourself to the point where you know that it's okay to be you, but you're also willing to share that with others. The way that I see it, self-advocacy can be boiled down into 3 main topics. So the first one I want to talk about is how to stand up for yourself. This can be really hard when you're young and insecure, but it's so important still. Confrontation can seem embarrassing and unnecessary when you're unsure of yourself, like I was for so many years. When I was younger, I thought it was a burden to have to tell substitute PE teachers and volleyball coach clinics, hey, I need to sit out on running the mile, it's for medical reasons. But obviously, it's the right thing to do, so I sucked it up and did it. Granted, it was way easier for me to stand up for my health than it was for me to stand up for myself and my well-being. CHD is what we consider an invisible disability, and this is because it affects one's internal anatomy, but also because healthy patients like myself, upon first glance, look like there's, quote, nothing wrong with them. What's not so invisible, however, are the gnarly zipper scars that I have running down my chest and across my back, and they're especially not invisible to the always curious, wandering eyes of elementary school students. The thing is, before going to school, I wasn't insecure at all. My parents had raised me to be proud of myself, and I really liked my scar. But once I got to school, the question started circulating. What is that? Why do you have that? You know, it's a really easy question. I would answer, oh, I had surgery on my heart. It's a scar. Simple, right? So I thought. It was the responses that really got to me. Oh, what? Ew, that is so weird. That's so gross. You know, elementary schoolers have no filter. They say whatever they think. And I didn't take it well at all. I let it go straight to my head, and I actually became super self-conscious about it. Retrospectively, I can say that I did not handle it the way that I should have. What I ended up doing is coming up with a cover story. And I'm not saying that you should lie, but it does make for a pretty funny story between me and my friends to this day. What I would say when someone asked about my scars, I would say, oh, it's a shark bite. You know, I was swimming in the ocean. I got attacked by a shark. And it made me sound pretty cool, but it was obviously a lie. What I should have said instead is, hey, that was kind of rude. This is my scar. It makes me who I am. But I was 5. I didn't have any social skills, and I didn't know how to stand up for myself. Knowing how to stand up for yourself is not only important to build your own self-confidence, but it's important because then you're showing other people that you are confident and you are proud of yourself. And it's not easy or in any way a simple process, but it can get easier through the help of reaching out for friends and family, but also just giving yourself daily positive affirmations. So the second thing I want to talk about is educating yourself and others. One of my favorite activities that we have at Camp Taylor is called Heart Education. And it's where we go and we sit with the main cardiologist of the camp, and he gives every single camper an individualized packet with a diagram of what their heart looked like when they were born, what it looks like now, and then a diagram of a normal heart to compare it to. And that's where I got my visuals from the beginning of this speech. There's also cardiac nurses and doctors available to answer any questions about procedures, side effects, what's in the future, anything you want. And since I've been going to camp for as long as I have, my heart hasn't changed in virtually 13 years, and I am the total nerd that I am. I've spent the last 10 years trying to learn everything possible about my heart. I've always prided myself on my somewhat extensive knowledge of not only my CHD, but also those of my friends. But that's not enough. To me, self-advocacy means being able and willing to share this information with others and not just keep it to yourself. As I've learned throughout the years, and as you probably discovered at the beginning of this speech, me talking about the anatomy of my heart is honestly boring and confusing, and no one wants to hear that. Because when it comes down to it, my friends don't care about what my heart looks like inside my body. They care about what it means for me in my life. So what I've done is use metaphors to explain how my CHD affects my life. One common side effect of having CHD is having chronic fatigue to some extent. And at Camp Taylor, they taught us a really cool way to explain chronic fatigue through metaphors. And that is called the spoon theory. So the spoon theory says that the energy level of a given person on a given day can be represented by 10 spoons. However, in a person with CHD, they only have 9 spoons to start out with. As you go throughout the day and you do different activities, the different activities take up different amounts of spoons, leaving you with however many spoons are at the end of the day. More strenuous activities obviously take more spoons, so on and so forth. So let's have an example. Let's use the activity of waking up, eating breakfast, getting ready for the day. Super simple, super low energy. Everybody does it every day. Let's see how it affects the different people. So in a person with a normal heart, this is going to take half a spoon, leaving 9.5 spoons left for the rest of the day. However, in a person with CHD, this is going to take a full spoon, leaving only 8 spoons for the rest of the day. And as the day goes on, every single activity, it takes double the amount of spoons in a person with CHD than it does in a person with a normal heart. And it really adds up because by the end of the day, the person with CHD has way less spoons. So now that I have this easy to explain, easy to understand metaphor to explain how CHD affects my life in one way, it's really easy for me to show my friends and family. It's a way for me to show my friends that when I say I don't want to go out, I'm not always just being lame. But between you and me, sometimes I am just being lame. So educating yourself and others is a great way to not only build confidence, but it's also a great way to show others that you're confident. Going back to what I said, when you're standing up for yourself. So the last step that I want to talk about is self-love and self-acceptance. This was for me by far the most difficult while simultaneously the most significant step. It's taken me 13 years to get to where I am today, and I'm still nowhere near done with my journey. I want to share some of my personal experiences, but also make it applicable because I think that this is a really important phase of life that everyone should go through, no matter who you are. So remember when I said that kids in elementary school would tease me about my scars? Well, this was the beginning of an excruciatingly long road of being self-conscious and self-insecure. I told my mom that I wanted to stop buying clothes that would show my scar, no more low necklines. And so we did for 13 years. Just this past summer, I bought my very first V-neck dress, and it was a huge thing for me, even though it seems insignificant. It was a really big step in my road to self-confidence. So you're probably thinking, why is she telling us about this dress? How is this relevant? Let's go back in time a little so I can tell you about how I got here. So aside from feeling self-conscious about my CHD when I was in elementary school, in middle school, I began to feel self-conscious among my friends at Camp Taylor about the severity or lack thereof of my CHD. At Camp Taylor, we have this activity called Giving Tree, where we sit down every night with our cabin and we talk about our CHD and how it affects our lives. We share stories, we ask questions. It's always very emotional and everyone ends up in tears. Amazing bonding strategy, by the way. As I grew older, though, I realized that I began to invalidate myself because I felt sad watching my friends who had had their entire lives flipped upside down by this horrible disease, while I was fortunate enough to have all of my surgeries done before a time I could remember, and I've been healthy ever since. I convinced myself that because I wasn't forced to look at my CHD in the eyes every single day and face it, that it was insignificant to my identity. So I suppressed all my feelings about it. Obviously, this is a horrible idea because it just led to further frustration and confusion. And it wasn't until recently, really recently, in fact, that I realized my CHD is so much more than that. 2 years ago, if you would have asked me to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how much my CHD affects me, I would have said 1, maybe 2. I would have replied, well, I take a baby aspirin every morning, I don't play sports, and sure, I get a little winded walking up the stairs, but let's be honest, who doesn't? But recently I realized that my CHD has affected almost every aspect of my life, from my positive outlook on life to my drive and ambition to my love of school. It's so much more than a daily pill, some trips to the cardiologist, and some scars. Something clicked. I'm not sure what it was to this day, but I had a Mitchie from Camp Rock moment, and I said, this is me. I began to talk more with my friends about it, and I began to embrace and be conscious of the part of me that makes me unique. And I gained so much confidence, both mentally and physically. And I mean, hey, I even bought that dress that I was talking about. So now I want to share with you 3 basic lessons that I've learned on my journey of self-love. I am in no way an expert, so take this with kind of a grain of salt. But I just want to share with you what I learned. So the first thing is reach out for help. Yes, this is all about individuality, and only you will ever be able to know if you truly love yourself. But that doesn't mean you can't phone a friend. My friends from Camp Taylor and outside have helped me get to where I am today, and I would be nowhere near this without them. Number 2 is be patient. This is not something that happens overnight or in a month or even a year. This is a journey, an excursion. It's a process. You're going to face roadblocks, probably a lot of them, but that's okay because you're strong, and if you concentrate on your goal, you can accomplish anything. And number 3 is you are your own person. This is so cliche, but do not compare yourself to others. Take it from me, it will lead you down the wrong path. It'll just complicate things for you further. In the end, self-advocacy is important because you need to love yourself and accept yourself. You advocate for yourself not because no one else will, but because you do it best. Thank you for allowing me to share my story, and I hope you take this as an opportunity to begin your journey of self-love. Thank you.